Friends, welcome to the Wednesday LiveStream, sponsored and hosted by Dulcimer Crossing. Dulcimer Crossing is an online platform to support the learning of both mountain and hammered dulcimers, as well as their cousins or hybrid variants, with some fiddle lessons also. We have filmed lessons, we have live events and workshops, and this week, coming up on, is the deadline for next week's. Let me share my screen for you. For Equidistant Dulcimer Day. This is a way of playing the dulcimer with your strings separated 4 equidistantly. And we have 6 people who love to play this way who are going to be showing us how they do it. And we are excited. We've been planning this for a good long time. Leo Kretzner wrote an article about this in the Dulcimer Players News at the end of last year, and he's one of the featured teachers. So that's just one of those things we want you to know about. Now, today, our theme is Welcome to March. March 1st. What happens in the middle of March? St. Patrick's Day. That always makes me turn my attention toward Celtic music. And want to give a little overview to Celtic music today. This is something that some of you may already do. Here is the link to the Equidistant Dulcimer Day. But you might already be focused on this, and that's very cool. But some of you may say, yeah, I've heard of that. I don't know exactly what that is. Celtic music is the music that comes from Ireland and Scotland, and some people include Wales in that. So I'm not gonna leave anybody out. But the beauty of this whole genre of music is there's a wide variety of what is available and what people play on their dulcimers. So, and both kinds of dulcimers lend themselves to this kind of music as well. So let me turn my camera to my mountain dulcimer. So that's a tune called The Rakes of Mallow, and it's not about garden implements. It is about some fellows who were, the party boys who left disaster in their wake. But that's a piece of the tradition. It is a tune type called the reel, R-E-E-L, and it's in 4/4 time. It's very even. That's the tune type that goes pretty fast. Now, if we play that same exact tune on the hammer dulcimer, which we can do because it's laid out, and it is actually many people will gravitate toward Irish or Celtic music on the hammer dulcimer because this is strung with wires, just like the Celtic harp is. So there are very accessible ways to play the reels on both mountain and hammer dulcimer. That is one of the tune types. There is another tune type that's in this time signature 4/4, but I'm going to move now to the jig time, the general jig thing. 4/4, this is just a little timing thing because this is what many people tell me they have trouble with or they're asking for help with is timing. When you have things that can be endlessly divided into two, watermelon, 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 watermelon. I use these vocables as a way of keeping my timing and my accenting right. It's very common for us to accent wa on watermelon. We don't say watermelon, watermelon, or watermelon, watermelon, or watermelon, watermelon. We don't do that. We say watermelon, 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 watermelon. And that lets us get the beat on the strong wa syllable. But it's possible also to accent the backbeat. And in fact, an Irish hand drum or frame drum, the bodhrán player will sometimes use a mashed potato beat. Mashed potato, mashed potato, mashed potato, mashed potato, which is accenting not the wah, but the te. Mashed potato, mashed potato. And they might do one rhythm in the front half of the tune and the other accenting of the same rhythm in the back half of the tune, and alternate it back and forth. That's in a session that's perfectly legitimate. Now, that's a duple meter. Everything can be divided into two. But when we go to the jig side of the world, now we're in a timing that has a number at the top that is divisible by 3. So it's 6 or 9 or 12 is what'll show up at the top. And usually the bottom half is going to be an 8. So we're counting eighth notes, which is what the bottom half of the time signature says. The top one says there's going to be 6 in a measure. Now, you may say 6 is a lot. I don't know if I can do 6. But last week when Aaron May and I were playing the sock hop rhythm in our jam session, we were doing something that felt like 6/8. Even though it was written in 4/4, we had triplets. So that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that feel is a 6/8 jig where we're accenting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're accenting the first and the fourth beats of the measure. So there's 2 pulses in the measure, and they show up in a regular place, but the accent gets placed there, so it can feel almost like a waltz. People will say, well, why isn't this just a fast waltz? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's just not. A waltz in 3/4 time, and there are some waltzes that get played in Celtic, in the Celtic world, like Rosin the Bow. That is a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. And here's the thing: 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. But if I play a jig, one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. It's not. We don't have to count that fast. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I'm doing this to work on the strum, there are some words that serve as vocables, like chocolate, coconut, raspberry, strawberry, blueberry, pineapple. Banana does not work because na is in the middle syllable. We want it to be on the first syllable. First syllable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Chocolate, coconut, pineapple, apricot. And that whole jig world feels different than the Now it's possible there, like I did, to put rakes of mallow into jig feel. And sometimes there are some fun jam sessions where that happens, where we play with a tune, like I've heard Old Jig Clark before. And Jim, you're talking about what you've heard about jigs being a little slower than reels because the eighth notes have equal time, but jigs have 6 and reels 8 beats per measure. Generally speaking, that's true. In practice, reels go faster than jigs do, even though we're doing a lot in jig time. The dancing tempos for reels are faster than jigs. I don't know. I've never heard anybody explain why they think that is in the way you're talking about it. That doesn't mean it's not true. I just know that when you're dancing, you got to have the right tempo, or you can't keep it up. Or if it's too slow, you can't move. You can't get off the ground. If it's too fast, you can't keep up with it. Scottish country dancing is a different thing. It's different than Ceilidh dancing. Ceilidh dancing is a party, and people don't get dressed up for that. Scottish country dancing is very proper. And I'm going to talk in next week. I'm going to talk about some resources where we can get all these tunes from. There's a myriad of resources that exist now, and they didn't always. So I want us, and they're in printed form, they're on online form. I want us to be able to have access to that and know where to look to find these things. But the feel here is what I'm focusing on. Let's look at what the feel is like on the hammered dulcimer. So here, if I do that, you notice anything? I'm alternating my hands a lot. So in jig time, because we're playing on every beat of the measure, if I start off, and I just alternate my hands, everything comes out a lot more even. If I try to take my strong hand, I have a built-in governor, a speed beyond which I cannot go because that's overworking one hand too much. And my accuracy decreases. So both my tempo is limited and my accuracy is severely limited. But when I alternate hands like that in jig time, that works. The same problem can happen in the reel. And I know that a lot of us, when we first started, we're trying to keep track of what's going on, and it can be a useful practice to learn the tune with one hand, learn the tune with the other hand, and before ever trying to put both hands together. Alternating hands for tunes that move fast as dance tunes will help your timing and accuracy in the long run. I don't think there's a shortcut around mapping it both sides of your brain. But that's a double jig because I'm playing on all the beats of the measure. So that's one kind of jig. It shares the time signature with a single jig, which is like the Road to Lisdoon Varna. And that that bouncy kind of long, short, long, short, long, short, long in single jig timing is written with quarter, quarter, eighth quarter, eighth quarter, eighth quarter. And that is a very common jig as well as the double jig. It's a different dance, so it has a different tune type to go with it. That tune also works here. And because this is a minor tune, a lot of us will put a capo on it the first fret which lets me get to E minor very quickly by going from 1 to 8. But you can hear that I'm ba 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 ba. There's places where there's what feels like a double jig where you're playing on all the beats of the measure, but there's also some spots where we rest and kind of turn around. That's typical of a single jig. So single jigs, we have some held places. Double jigs, we're playing on mainly all the beats of the measure. Now, there's another kind of jig, which is a slip jig. And that's where the time signature is a 9/8 time signature. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It keeps that's the kind of tune type that keeps pulling us forward, and it feels like almost like it's never going to end. And a lot of slip jigs have that kind of feel in them, which is really fun as a player. I don't know how dancers feel about it, but it's a different kind of dance for the dancers as well. And let's see that on the hammer dulcimer. Another jig we'll do is the name of that tune. We had Rakes of Mallow and the Rakes of and the Road to Lisdoon Varna. We have lessons for these tunes in our site, and I've also written a book called Another Jig Will Do, which highlights both all these tune types, and the book is divided or organized according to the tune types. Because why? I want people to be able to play this music and to have fun with it. And these tunes do sometimes show up in jam sessions. In the dulcimer world, however, many jam sessions are based on old time music. Some Celtic music makes it to the United States in old time music. Cold Frosty Morning is one of those. Anyway, I'm not going to get off in that excursus because we have another tune type that I want to call attention to, and that's the one where I said earlier, I dropped a little hint and said earlier that this was going to be here. That there's it's where it feels like a cross between the jig and the reel. In 4/4 time, there are also tunes called hornpipes, which also is a dance. One of the famous ones that I hear played on a hammer dulcimer a lot is Abbott Brumley's hornpipe, and it's played in a very stately way. It's much more like that Scottish or English country dancing. But if I... Nope, that's different. Sorry. Let me think of my hornpipe that I was thinking of. The sailor's hornpipe that we get associated with Popeye the Sailor Man. is that bouncy kind of rhythm, long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. It's written as if it's straight. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4 is what the music looks like, but it's played as if it's in long, dotted 8th and 16th timing. Now, some people do have written it out that way, and some of the old tune books will have it written out that way. But in general, there's a convention that a hornpipe is played with this kind of bouncy rhythm, and a reel is played with a straight rhythm. However, when I hang out with fiddlers, they like to play against type and fight that convention. So my buddy Vi, together we're fiddle wham diddle. What he likes to do is play his hornpipe straight and his reels hornpipey. And I will try to drag him in the direction of where I want it to be. And that's, duos. We have to do that and play along with it and wrestle with each other sometimes. But that long, short, long, short, long, short is almost like the first and last beats of chocolate, 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 coconut, coconut, pineapple, pineapple, apricot, strawberry, 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 straw, taking the first and third syllables of our vocables for the jig time. Does that make sense? That's where the bouncy rhythm that can be part of a single jig shows up in 4/4 time. It's in a hornpipe with a long, short rhythm. And we've got those songs too on our site. Now, there is another one which is peculiar to Scotland, and that is called, oops, I didn't demonstrate the hornpipe. Sorry. Let's go to the hammer dulcimer. Make sure everybody gets equal time. Because if you don't play that other instrument, some of us, those who play both are interested in both or can learn something from how the other one works. But here's the sailor's hornpipe. So I have to do some interesting bridge crossing, but it's still that ba da da. And sometimes hornpipes will have those triplet patterns thrown in. So the bounciness allows us to play with the time signature says we're going to be doing this straight 4/4 thing, but when it's bouncy like that, sometimes there's room to throw in a triplet. So sometimes hornpipes will have triplets in them. There's one other tune type that I want to call attention to. Two more. Let's stay in the 4/4 time signature and let's go to a strathspey. So we have been playing tunes, these 4/4 tunes in straight or bouncy rhythm. A strathspey is a Scottish tune type which makes use of a Scottish figure called the snap. The long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. If I put the short first, I get a snap. So the short comes first and the long is later. That's the figure called a snap. And everybody that reads this on the paper always go, haven't found anybody yet who does it, because we're so used to the long one being first. A strathspey uses the straight stuff, time to rest dances when you were doing Scottish country dancing. That's funny, Doug. This is the Brockenloam tune. And what happens is they take the long, short, put the short in front sometimes, put the long in front sometimes, and fill it up with triplets sometimes. So this is a tune which kind of, it's a kitchen sink tune. It puts it all in, which is why I like it. It's unusual and it's a little more challenging. But when you have a whole room full of mountain dulcimer players going, and I'm using pull-offs, it sounds so bagpipey. It is wonderful. So let's go over to the hammer dulcimer and see. One of the things that this requires is quick hammers. So it is very alternating, but I've got the short long, I've got the long short, and I've got a few triplets that are thrown in there. I've played this tune for a long time, so it took me a little while to work that out, but it is possible to do. That is the Scruspe. And there is one more, and that I want to look at today. There are some polkas and waltzes and things I'm not going to look at today. But I want to look at a slide. That's the time signature that is a 12/8 time signature. What? Excuse me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. And there's a dance called the slide that goes with that. And O'Keefe's slide is a great example. Oh, gotta love playing the wrong note at the very end. Um, oh, forgot to change my camera. Doing that on the mountain dulcimer. And that almost feels like, because it's in 12/8 time and I'm putting some things where I have a short beat first, it has a relationship. Um, was that Liston Varna? It was Liston Varna. You're right. Well, sometimes the tunes in their heads. No, no. That's another jig. Okay. Well, maybe today will not be the day that I demonstrate the slide. I intended to. Yeah, the jury will disregard that remark. Thanks for catching that, Jim. Um, But we're out of time today, so, sadly, we have to, let the error live there forever, which is I've never heard Liz Varna called a slide. That's interesting. Um, but I'm not the final authority on this. I'm just someone who loves it and researches it. Um, and I'm open. Research means I'm open to new information. So next week, what I want to bring for you is a lot of ways we can find the resources. Today, I want to point to a couple of things that we have on Dulcimer Crossing. Let's share. Actually, share. Here we go. I'm in the Dulcimer Crossing page. I'm signed in. I happen to be looking at the live events page with what's coming up, and we're going to in 2 weeks. Aaron May is going to join me for another live stream jam here. We'll be um, we're going to test our theory, I think, but we're going to be playing Off She Goes, for which we have lessons. And if I want to find those lessons, one way I can go is to click on Instrument. I'm going to click on Hammer Dulcimer first. Uh, There it comes. And we've added something. We've added genres. So if you go down to the bottom, you click on that link that takes us to the Celtic music for hammered dulcimers, and you can see this whole series we have for all the different tune types. So that's a way to find where what I'm talking about today is in the Dulcimer Crossing site. I can also search and say I want O'Keefe's slide is what I was trying to play. There's nothing here. We don't have that one in our site, comma yet. Well, maybe that's why I was thinking so much about the other one. Let me just see what slides says. There are that's going to be a slide. Let's do it this way. Oh, still going to be there. So I'm going to have to sort through the articulation, which is a slide, to find the tune type, which is a slide. Um, but I can find those there. I can also find these in the backing tracks library. And you can see we have this column here which has tune types. So here's Brockenloam, which is okay. It looks like I have to fix the typo in that one. Isn't it so delightful to find those things? Celtic, Higgity Jig. There it is. So we could play along with this is Vi Wickham's jig. We can play along with that. We can download and look at this. So our backing tracks library has some ways that we can be a part of this. Why is it important to talk about the downloading stuff? Because these kinds of tunes and other kinds of tunes in other genres can be written down, but very often the written page cannot translate to a player how it should sound and feel. It can get us in the neighborhood, kind of like Dad said. Jack Nicholas said, "Try to get within 6 feet of the hole when you're chipping, when you're playing golf. Don't aim for the pin. Try to get within 6 feet, and then you can have a 6 foot putt, higher average of getting in. Then, of course, if you accidentally get it all in, you go right for the hole and get it in. Celebration. But um, listening to recordings, listening to live playing of tunes, there's no substitute for that. So be aware that whatever you find in a book somewhere, when you go and play with other people, likely going to be some different, but there's going to be a lot of similarity. And what you did in your own, working from the resources you have, whether it's an online thing or in a book thing, or a cassette or a cassette, I'm old, or a CD, I'm old, or an LP, even older, whatever you have as a resource that helps you recall the tune will be the thing that helps you get all the nuances that it's hard to read or to write on the paper and read these papers. Kelly, yes, these tunes are played on a mountain dulcimer. and even noter style. Now, some of the arrangements are written to be played across the strings in a finger style way, finger dancing kind of way with your fretting hand. But there's a lot of these that can be played with a noter as well. Well, friends, thank you for your attention today. In our Celtic month that we're kicking off next week, I'll show resources. The week after that, we'll have our jam session with Off She Goes, which is a tune that we have in our library of lessons. And I look forward to seeing you then. The one more thing. This week, let's share that page. This Saturday is the deadline to sign up for the Four Equidistant Dulcimer Day. And here is an assignment. If you want to hear someone who's playing in four equidistant style or tuning, playing a um, a fun recording of a Celtic tune on our faculty page, go to Leo Kretzner's, and there is a video there of him playing a very delightful tune. He's playing fingerstyle, um, but he's using four-string arrangement with some moving bass lines, and very, very cool. Anyway, that the deadline for that workshop is on the 11th. The deadline to sign up is this Saturday, and the seats are filling. We're excited to have. Um, we've nearly reached our good goal, and of course, there's a better and a best goal. But everybody who comes is going to be fed well with this style of playing. And so, with that, I'm going to say fare thee well, and I will look forward to seeing you next.